Okay, well, Napoleon Total War is a story-driven experience which focuses on the rise of Napoleon the man and his link to the destiny of the French nation. And it follows all of Napoleon's exploits throughout. And you get the chance to play that as Napoleon in a kind of a combination of real-time and turn-based strategy. Napoleon was a really kind of interesting sort of departure for us in terms of telling a story. We needed somebody that allowed us to have an individual narrative and at the same time told the story of a nation, told the story of an era. And of course Napoleon is one of the more recent examples. He had an entire era named after him, the Napoleonic era. So, you know, he was a fairly natural choice to bring together the idea of telling an individual story and the Total War experience. Well, the way that the campaign works is it's structured into 3 separate full campaigns. So you start out with the Italian campaign, where you take charge of the kind of newly republicanized French military. Then we move into the Middle East and North African campaign, where Napoleon invades Egypt for the glory of France. And finally, we end up in the Grand European campaign. And here we see that Napoleon is the emperor of all of France. He's hugely powerful, but he's hated by pretty much every other nation in Europe. There's also a final mode, which is the campaigns of the coalition. And that allows you to play as the coalition nations in the Grand European theatre against Napoleon. Well, Napoleon comes with more than 355 units out of the box. Because of the more limited number of factions we've got this time around, you've got a really deep kind of unit tree for all of the different factions. Playing as France, of course, you get access to the elite Revolutionary Guard. You might recognise units like the Black Watch from Britain, or indeed the Black Brunswickers that fought against Napoleon in Waterloo. You also find nations such as Russia developing, so right down to the level of units that came from individual towns or, you know, specific regiments. We've got that kind of level of detail in the game, so there's a real huge variety for players to play with and against. On the single player side, you'll find that the campaign turn times have been changed, which results in a lot more strategy. You've now got the ability to loot settlements as well as to occupy them. The way that generals work has also been radically overhauled, so you now get a list of finite kind of historically accurate generals to choose from. When it comes to the multiplayer side of things, you've also got the ability now to fight drop-in battles, which means that you can keep your single player kind of story-driven experience, but at the same time, where possible, you can kind of invite other players into your world and have them influence your battles by fighting them against you. And of course, you know, you've got all of the multiplayer modes like the multiplayer campaigns, as I've mentioned, and of course all the battle modes and all the historical scenarios have been opened up for multiplayer. Well, the Napoleon engine is the evolution of the technology that we've begun working on many years ago, so it's basically been pushed to the point where now we can do kind of very, very realistic weather and lighting effects. So you'll see things like snow blizzards and sandstorms. All of these things will interact with and affect the troops. The level of unit detail has been massively increased, right down to the point where we can get 64 different facial types per unit actually in the campaign itself. So you'll see loads and loads of different variety in that sense. In addition to that, you'll find that we've got new mechanics and stuff on the technology side which allow us to do stuff like motion blurring and shock waves when the shells go off and all of these kind of things. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of eye candy to be seen in the new engine. Well, the Emperor Edition is something that's unique to EB in Australia, and it's an absolutely fantastic version of the Napoleon experience. It comes with a whole host of exclusive units, which obviously impact your multiplayer and indeed your single player experience. But on top of that, and absolutely most importantly, it comes with this bloody fantastic Napoleon picturesque little thing where he's jumping up on his horse. How awesome is this? Okay, I can tell you that this is exclusive to EB in Australia, and just as a point of note, everybody at the studio in CA has placed an order to get one of these sent. So all the staff want these as their special edition. So thank you, EB Oz. Oh yeah, you get a journal too. That's pretty awesome too. So yeah, there's a huge amount to be had in this edition. It's absolutely fantastic, and I heartily recommend it. Well, you guys are set for the worldwide release with the rest of us, and in February 2010. So it's really scarily not that far off.